Hi friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jessie and this is my second video out of my 6 months before I turn 30 video series. So if you haven't watched my first video, I really recommend watching that to give you some context to maybe some of the topics that I'll be talking to you about today. But if you don't want to watch it, no worries. This video hopefully will make sense to you as well. So without further ado, this video is about why I've come to love my anxiety. And I know that doesn't sound really normal or common or make too much sense, but I wanted to talk about it because I think the way that I started thinking about anxiety recently has absolutely changed my life. We'll start out with the story of why I started to think about it in this way. I was misdiagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder back in 2021, I want to say. And I was misdiagnosed because I don't have generalized anxiety disorder, but also because I was having panic attacks. And at the time, I wasn't sure where those were coming from. I was just randomly having these horrible, 10-minute, hyperventilating, crying fits where I just felt extremely anxious, had just this overarching sense of dread, and I couldn't breathe. And so these things started. I had my first one in 2019, and I should have kind of realized what it was from, but I never really thought about them, and I really just wanted to get through them, and I pushed them away, pushed them out of my mind. So in my head, at the time, I thought that they were random. Hindsight 2020, they weren't. They were more related to what I had gone through, and unfortunately, in 2018 and 2019 and part of 2020, I met this person and got into a relationship with them. So I was struggling on multiple fronts with this person. I was very naive and just felt like love conquers all kind of attitude towards them. And it wasn't until I got really out of that relationship where I feel like the trauma kind of held on and started coming out in interesting ways, which was these panic attacks. And what happened was, if you didn't watch my previous video, there was a time in my life where I wanted to go to medical school. So I re-enrolled in classes. I started studying and I started taking studying for the MCAT. So there was a lot of pressure on myself to do really well, get straight A's, get a high score on the MCAT. And I think it started triggering these feelings of not being good enough, all this pressure, putting a lot of pressure on myself. And I don't think, I wasn't really sure, I wasn't really willing to deal with the trauma from before and truly heal with it. Unfortunately for me, I did not have a good provider at that time and I was misdiagnosed. I had originally gone to this person because 3 or 4 people had come up to me either through streaming or actually my friends in person and had recommended, because I was struggling so hard with focusing on the MCAT and really sticking to a study schedule, to just see if I had any learning things, get evaluated for ADHD. So I had originally gone to this provider being hey, I'm just curious if I have this. I've been struggling with XYZ. And I just want to tell you my story. Unfortunately, I wasn't really able to tell my story because 5 minutes within that appointment, she was like, I don't think you have this. I think you have this. And instead of giving me maybe some good tools first or recommending to go see a therapist or whatnot, I was put on medication. And I think medication's amazing. I think it does some crazy stuff to your brain and can elevate you to who you really want to be. Granted, you have an amazing provider and somebody who knows you well and can walk you through this journey. This person did not want to walk me through this journey. They just wanted to give me an antidepressant. So because I had been struggling with these panic attacks for so long, because I assumed just their position that they knew best, I trusted them. And I started taking this medicine, I want to say, and I think it's great for some people. For me, it did not act well. While its job was to subside those panic attacks, which it did, get rid of the anxiety, which was that dreadful feeling I had in my gut, it also got rid of a lot of things that make me, which are my emotions. And while anxiety can be absolutely debilitating in some cases, for me, losing my other emotions that made me who I am was more debilitating than that. And I am like such a feely person. Like, I like feeling things, and I don't know why, like, this is making me emotional, but I feel like your feelings, even the good, even the bad, are like such a core part of the human experience. And so when I lost that, I lost a piece of like my human experience. But I really lost my sense of self when I lost my ability to feel. And it also made me feel the only thing that I could actually really feel was anger. And if you know how this medication works, it takes a couple months for you to like it really kick in, and then it takes a couple months for you to get it out of your system. And unfortunately, I just like went cold turkey, and I didn't really have a good experience getting off of it. That was my fault, not theirs. But it made me feel like really frustrated and angry because I felt so like dead. And then like when I would feel a little bit of something, it would be like anger and frustration. It was really hard because it made me feel very isolated and alone. And then also because I was frustrated, I would push the people who cared about me most away. And I think there's a lot of power in telling stories. And I know I listen to a lot of people's stories on the internet that have really impacted me in such positive ways. So that's why I'm telling this story. And I hope that if you feel alone, or like you feel what I was feeling in a way that was like, I'm so frustrated, no one's gonna understand me, no one understands me, no one's gonna know me, no one's gonna be able to help me in the way that I need it, like that is literally the flag that you need to be like, I should go ask for help. Because I had that thought and I was feeling that way because I was so numbed out and I was so emotionally blunted that I just like pushed everyone away. But if you feel that you're like pushing everybody away because you feel like no one's gonna understand you, please let that be your sign to ask somebody that cares about you for help. And self-advocating and meeting in the middle is probably one of the best things that you can do for yourself, because it's extremely empowering, not only for you, but for the people around you to say like, hey, I think you're great and I think that you can help me. Also, I am asking for help and getting help myself. So I don't know. I think it's a positive both ways, but I digress. Back to the story. So like I said, I couldn't feel anything. I was super numbed out. I was losing out on my human experience, and I decided obviously this wasn't for me. Went back off, and then just like my feelings started coming back. My anxiety started coming back, and I was starting to feel, and I realized like I would way rather feel this and feel better, because and that's where I started to think about things as my emotions, my negative emotions, positive emotions, kind of in energetic balance sense. And I'm not talking about like woo, like mystical, like cosmos energy. I'm talking about like literal physics energy is the way that I started to think about it. You can totally think about it in your own way, but this is how I was thinking about it. And if it helps you, or it's a good way to kind of think about it. So I was thinking about it as like kind of physics, laws of physics, like energy can either be created or destroyed. So I was like, wow, so if I have this negative emotion, I literally have the power to turn it into something positive, because I can't just like get rid of it, and I can like offload it, right? Like get upset and let that energy release in a certain way, but I can also hone it. I just want to, like, when I started thinking about it in that way, I started thinking about the anxiety curve, or the Yerkes-Dodson law, which I will quote this below and link it to some articles if you're interested. But basically, it's like a bell curve. And it's an empirical relationship between your stress levels or your arousal, your anxiety, and your performance levels. And there's like a balance where they come together and meet at peak performance, where you actually need to feel anxious and stressed, or not anxious and stressed, but like you need to feel a level of stress to hit that peak performance. And so it's actually sometimes a good thing. Once I started looking at things not as black and white, good and bad, but more of this like beautiful gray, mushy mess of humanness, things started to shift and really begin to make sense. And like I still have days where anxiety takes over when it absolutely shouldn't, and it shouldn't. But I will say that there are moments where I now appreciate and love my anxiety so much more, because it means I can feel. While sometimes it's totally uncomfortable, looking at these parts of me that I once deemed not good or bad or need fixing, I'm learning to really embrace it as like part of who I am and something that I can really hone in. And like feeling things so deeply is the reason why I care about certain things. And it's the reason why I can feel certain things in my gut. It's the reason why like I started this YouTube channel, and I'm so thankful for it. I'm so thankful that when I am anxious, I'm like, okay, but at least I can feel things. At least I still care. And I know that sounds like overtly positive, and like I said, I still have really bad days, but I will say there's so much power in looking at it in that way. And I want to continue using my anxiety as a powerful tool. And I know it really isn't easy, like what I went through. It took me 2 years to really start thinking in this way. Where I can actually be grateful and thankful for having those panic attacks, for having these feelings of something's wrong. And I've learned how to decipher like what my gut is saying versus what my head is saying, and hone in all those parts of myself. So all that to say, that's my story on why I love my anxiety, why it's giving me the power to do things that I was always afraid to do, and why I hope I never stop feeling it. So thanks for watching my second video out of my 30 videos before I turn 30. I really appreciate you guys being here and listening to me rant about these really random topics. I'm just so happy you're here. I'm so thankful you're here, and I feel a little bit of anxiety posting the second video because I feel like it might be a little bit different than my other ones, but thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.